License to Kill is sponsored by Sterifab and Pest Patrol. Sterifab delivers clean kills with a single spray, disinfect and eliminate pests instantly. And a special thanks to Pest Patrol, supporting our mission to make LTK agents the best in the field.
Hi, I'm Marcus, and welcome to the License to Kill podcast, where pest control professionals meet cutting-edge expertise, industry insights, and a whole lot of camaraderie. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your journey as a PMP, this podcast dives into everything that makes our industry tick. From advanced techniques and groundbreaking products to hilarious field stories and the real talk about the challenges we face in our industry. Join us as we explore the science, art, and community behind pest control, celebrating the people who work tirelessly to keep our world safe, healthy, and pest-free. As always, stay sharp, stay connected, stay legendary. Let's start the show.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the License to Kill show. I've got Miss Kimberly Camero joining us today. We're going to be talking about her new program that she's developing, as well as the services that she offers doing canine rodent remediation, rodent treatments, hunting, as well as bed bugs and several other things. But she specializes in canine handling, which is a unique aspect of our industry we don't see a whole lot of. It's certainly not enough. Ms. Kim is an expert in this area and definitely has a huge crew of dogs. She deploys them all over the place. We're excited to talk to her a little bit about that today. So, Ms. Kimberly, if you wouldn't mind just taking a second and telling us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my gosh. Well, again, my name is Kim Camera, and I get called a lot of things from Kim to Kimberly. I have been in the animal industry since about 1980, and I started working in the zoo world. And I've done everything from training exotic elephants to actually rats to do behaviors and tricks and programs. Did a free-ranging giraffe program in Africa, which was incredible. And we got to work with the locals on how to keep different types of animals smashing their gardens. Some of these school kids, when they go to school, all they have is a potato. And they walk, literally, they will walk miles to go to school, a bush school.
Wow.
So that's kind of my background. So I've always been in the animal training world. I am definitely the black sheep of an engineering family. I don't think my mom talks a lot about her daughter that kills thousands of rats. I think she talks about her engineering son in Germany at the senior citizen home. So that's kind of how I've gotten started. I went from falconry to hunting with dogs, and we've added ferrets.
That is so cool. So you started with falconry. Did you do anything in pest control with falconry? Was that all shows and exhibits, or what was the capacity in which you were training the falcons?
So the first thing for falconry, I did start in actual shows, programs, shows, and hunting. I mean, hunting
Mhm.
7 days a week, hunting, game for the birds. And then I moved into pest control. So I got to do a contract at JFK. And unfortunately, it was a contract that was happening at the same time 9/11 happened. So that all went down around us while we're doing bird abatement on the fields of JFK. Um, that was a fascinating time, a great life. Uh, Traveled all over the world working birds, and I've traveled all over the world banding birds. So I've been to Israel, I've been to a lot Israel,
Oh, wow.
been to Africa, studying birds and pesticide, mainly DDT fallout. So I was a
Okay.
part of a group of people that took blood samples. I was a part of the people that worked at Cape May Point, New Jersey, banding birds. And then my counterparts were in Greenland banding peregrine falcons and taking feather tests for DDT fallout and for radiation and doing blood samples. So 22 days later, we caught in Cape May, New Jersey, two sisters from a nest that they actually banded. And what we were finding during that time that there was really high rates and high traces of DDT in these bird systems still. And everyone's like, well, how can that be? Because we don't use it. It was
Right.
outlawed here in the 70s, right?
Right. Right. It's been a
So,
way. Hasn't been around in a
yeah,
while.
right. Well, we send it to Central, we still sell it. We manufacture it and sell it to Central and South America. And that's what's on our fruits and vegetables when they're shipped over here in the wintertime when we're not producing. So it's still in our food chain. So that was a fascinating time. I was doing a lot of the blood sampling at that point in time.
That, I hadn't even considered that as far as like global commerce and, how other people's regulations, even though we may create our own internal regulations, it doesn't necessarily have an effect on the goods that we're getting or the services that we're receiving from overseas. And
Oh, that's so true.
I talked to Shofu. He's one of our members in Discord, and we talked a little bit about the treatments that they're doing in Africa and the kind of pesticides that they have access to. And it's not that there's a lack of interest in wanting to move to the types of pesticides that are used in the Western markets, as much as it is like an actual access issue. It's very expensive over there, and the stuff that they can get a hold of, like you said, is either the organophosphates, the DDT, all these kind of products that we just don't use anymore. They've either been outlawed in our area, but just because the chemical companies stopped selling it here didn't mean that they stopped selling it there. And in fact, it might be even more abundantly available, due to shipping routes and stuff like that. So, wow, that's so. You've got yourself a colored history then. You got to do a whole bunch of stuff and got to do some sciencey stuff. That's awesome. That is really
Oh, I've had
cool.
all. I have slept in the back of my pickup truck for years when I was working for Birds of Prey. We were referred to as PRB, Professional Raptor Bums, because we didn't make a lot of money, but we just had a ball. And I'm actually going to Africa in November for holiday, and we're going to hook up with a pest company. We're going to kill Africa there because I want to see how they handle rodents and bed bugs. I want to see
Right.
what do they
Yeah,
try,
bed
how they
bugs.
find. Yeah, what's their viewpoint of, they're going to use a little more local stuff. We have all these fancy dandy things that we can use. I want to see what they do and how they do it. So that'll be a lot of fun.
That is so cool. I bet the airline companies love you. You're getting all over the place.
We,
Uh,
speaking of airline companies, we just did our first rat on an airplane. So that was quite interesting. And now I don't want to stay in hotels because of bed bugs, and I don't like to eat out because of rats, and now I don't want to fly. So
I
I
totally
like to skip
understand that.
it.
I actually drag my own travel trailer just about everywhere I go because
I
I'm
know.
not a fan of going to hotels. Okay, so you touched on that a little bit. So you hunted these rats using your dogs. You deploy them in the field. Tell me a little bit about what does that process look like? What is how does that go down? How do you transport them? How do you find these customers, or how do they find you? And what do these treatment programs look like? How long are they? Are they just a couple hours, a couple days, a whole week?
Okay.
Spill the
It
beans
really just
here.
depends. Yeah, it just depends on the client and what they want. And we're our rodent program. So we have Goose Patrol, which is 100% driven, I'd say 80% driven by our company, and we'll assist pest companies. Our bed bug canine program is about 50-50, where we have our own clients and then we work for multiple pest companies. But our rodent program, because I feel it is so important to have exclusion, you're trapping. The way I like to see it is exclusion, canine, trapping, and then pesticide, kind of even in that order. So it's a whole package, because if we don't have that, we can go in there and we can knock that infestation down to almost a undetectable level, but it's not going to sustain that. It's going to explode within a couple more months. So
Right.
we really do need that pesticide. So that's how we got started. Coming from a falconer standpoint, um, I like to hunt, and I like to hunt with an animal. I like to see the natural, give the animal, give him a chance. I
Be a
like
little
to see the
chase.
natural. Yeah,
Yeah.
give 'em a chance. So just by being on a farm, my dogs have, controlled rodents here. We put snakes out here all the time. We get called for a lot of catching a lot of snakes. So I bring the non-venomous ones here and just release them on our farm or in the barn. And then the dogs will kill some of the rats. So it just was started kind of on a fluke. I said to one of my salesmen from one of the big box pest companies, "Hey, we're thinking of starting a canine rodent program." And she spun around and said, "I need it in 3 weeks." We had it in 3 weeks. That little dog Leroy went into that restaurant. I had no idea. You know how we all do something for the first time and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. He found the problem. He solved the problem. He found a burrow outside an azalea bush and he disappeared in it. It was so deep. And when we pulled him out by his tail, inside he hit on a wall. And when they cut that wall open, there was a pipe behind there. When they ran a plumber's tape through a light through the burrow, that burrow went through that restaurant and connected into a very old cast iron pipe that they didn't know existed that the rats chewed through. And that was their runway through that whole entire restaurant. So
Wow,
once they,
completely underground, completely
yeah,
like yeah, you would have no clue. As a guy that just goes around and just standard pest control, you just wouldn't think at all the kind of level of penetration
that's
that
right.
you'd. Yes, wow,
So he saw that, and once they got that all excluded, because technicians can see everything that's visible. The whole
right,
point of having a canine program is to find what we can't see.
correct,
That's the whole point. And then just trust your dog. Trust it, mark it, map it out, and that map will tell a story at the end of your day. How long do we stay? Most of our apartments, we go a minimum of 7 days. And these infestations are huge. So
right,
we'll go a minimum of 7 days, maximum of 10. And then we do two follow-ups. So every month we're coming back for at least one full day and sometimes maybe two, just to make sure it's staying low and that the pest company's pest control is starting to work. The
right,
only time we were on our way to Pennsylvania to work in a big box warehouse, about 1 million square feet. We were talking about that earlier, warehouse. We got a call from a waste management. They desperately needed us. We stopped by. A technician threw tracking powder everywhere.
oh, God,
So, which is, he just needed educated a little bit that you can't do that type of thing.
right,
And it
right,
was an emergency panic situation. So we all just have to keep our heads about us when we're dealing with these chemicals. And we all want to please the client so bad that sometimes we do things that really risk human
yeah,
life.
dangerous, yeah, very
And it's very
dangerous,
dangerous to you, to the technician, to the people in the building. So that ground was blue. We couldn't get our dogs out. So we went and we got those white suits on, and boots and gloves, and we hand caught over 370 rats. But now they were starving. You could throw a sticky board across the floor, a rat would hit it, and another rat would hit that rat to try to eat that rat.
right,
I've never seen anything like it.
cannibalism,
Yeah, because I mean, I played tug of war with a rat. I grabbed a trap with a rat on it, and another rat grabbed it, and I thought, why am I not videoing this? And I was playing tug of war with a rat. So they were just starving. So yeah, it was a amazing situation I've not seen before. But we did that by hand. So
So you mentioned the big box warehouse. You said before, I think one of our previous conversations, that your dogs deploy, or that you're able to put like full body hair nets on them. So this is a service that can be used in food handling facilities. This is a service that can be used in audited facilities. Anywhere that's going to have a sanitation or safety. What is that like? Are you going through? Are they on the leash? Are you are you? Is it a handling situation? Do you just set them out to do their thing and kind of track them and follow them around, or how does that play out, and how do you mitigate in those environments? Like, how do you navigate in those environments where they're so cleanly?
So when we're working in a warehouse, I'd like to just touch base real quick on. So you have your abatement dogs and you have your detection dogs. We're the only ones in the country training like this because I was so frustrated because we were going into these big buildings and you just knew you saw all the signs and the dogs weren't hitting on anything, but yet they're chasing. So they're chasing the live rat, the live mouse, and they're not giving us any information at all except there's a live mouse, a live rat, and I'm going to chase it. These abatement dogs, they're terriers. So they're just bred to kill. They're bred to catch, they're bred to kill, and they don't care about the fecal, the urine, and that's what we care about because that's what the pest company is going to care about.
Right.
So we started training detection dogs just like you would a bed bug dog. They'll alert on urine, they'll alert on fecal, they'll alert on a live mice, a live rat. They'll alert on the entire picture with a nice passive sit or a down. And
Okay.
then we can pull them out of that area, mark it, and then they'll come in and they'll slowly move all those pallets while we're watching for, and we'll also, Marcus, we'll put a barrier up. So as soon as we have activity and we have an alert, we've already created these mile-long cardboard barriers, and we'll wrap that whole place in a section with a barrier, and
Right.
we'll let that pallet out one at a time on a forklift, and we check everything with a thermal scope. We don't want to carry mice out if there's a mouse there, right? Or a
Right.
rat.
Right.
We don't want to carry it out in the pallet and just place it somewhere else. So Greg's always on the ground with a freaking, thermal scope. And we have kept track of things so they won't get out into the main lobby. And we've caught them that way.
I've
We
definitely operated in a quarantine type situation where we're building, little temporary walls and down
yep,
stacking pallets one at a time and moving them around. So that is what you're offering, or the ability to bring the dogs in there and kind of monitor those situations is so much faster and I think so much more effective. I know that when we were trying to use like a thermal camera, it doesn't really penetrate into, especially like when you're dealing with like food products, drink products, stuff like that, right? The packaging is made in such a way that you're only going to get so much penetration with the thermal camera. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I have to ask. So you mentioned a little bit about bed bugs. You mentioned a little bit about dogs. How many dogs do you have in your what is it called? The pack, right? Is it like how many dogs do you
yeah, so
have in the
we've got quite the
service?
pack. We got 22 dogs total. I've got my two retired FEMA dogs. I was on FEMA for 16 years, so my last two are still with us. And then we have six bedbug dogs. We have three goose dogs. We've got five active rodent dogs, abatement dogs, because we run abatement dogs in packs of two or threes. Any more than that, I don't want to deal with their fussing. And the areas we work in are small. And then we have two detection dogs and two coming up. We certify all of our dogs. So our dogs are certified through World Detection Dogs. They're certified through canine professional detection dogs. NASDECA whenever I can find a test. And a new one that's out that's really a phenomenal test is International Casino Resort Working Dog Association, and that is a real certification. It was my bed bugs were in a freaking fire alarm up high when so they run that test like a real life cert. Our rodents, the same thing. We certify through WDDO or Canine Professional Detection for the rodent dogs. Why do we certify? Because a lot of people don't. It's not mandatory. There's no national standards for a certification. I just feel it just shows that the animals know odor. And they
Right.
know odor, they know what to do. If the client's ever called the court, they're going to take us into court with them. The two things the lawyer's going to say, are you certified? Yes. And where's your training notes? And that's it. We're done. If we say no, we could blow the whole case for the client. And it keeps my handlers on the toes because I've got five handlers that work with me. And then we have subcontractors that we bring in for really big jobs. And then, like a warehouse, a million square foot warehouse will take us 7 days to go through. But
Yep.
in that 7 days, we are finding massive runways. By the time we can map it out and put it down in writing, they can mass trap and they're going to start catching.
Right.
So the last place we were just at, in 3 days, we caught 28 mice. And in a year, they hadn't caught six mice. So the dogs just found the runways.
Correct.
And sometimes it works beautifully and sometimes you struggle, with the air movement, air currents, everything that's going on, traffic, the amount of people that are in the warehouse at the same time. So
What do you find is it that darkness, that hard to reach access, those runways, is that really the key as far as what differentiates, like, because I, like, again, I've done mass trapping programs in these kinds of facilities, and you build your map based on where you can get hits or or targets, and that helps to a degree, but it does feel like you're kind of casting a wide net, and that, like you said, in a whole year you could get very little return if you're casting too wide. The trick of what's happening here is we're really narrowing in on these low travel areas, right? I mean, and that's kind of where. So can you tell me anything about rodent behavior or rodent anatomy or something that might contribute to this problem and why your dogs are so effective at where everybody else kind of has a shortcoming?
Well, the dogs can squeeze 9 inches. When you look at these pallet rows, they're sometimes, what, 30 feet high and 30 to 60 feet long, and they're 9 inches apart. And so your technician can see any activity out in the front and maybe 6 to 7 feet back with a flashlight. And after that, that's it. And that's really where you're going to find your mice, anyways. You're going to find them in the dark corners. They like darkness, they like straight lines, they like peace and quiet, and they like darkness. And anywhere there could be any type of water, especially if it's a rat. With mice, not so much. They can get it. They can get it from they can get their fluids from the cardboard that they're gnawing on. They can get enough to survive. But I think that's the biggest thing is availability. The dogs can just get to so much more than a technician can just because we're too big. They just have more available to them. We only look 6 feet and below. I know some people go up in forklifts and drag their dogs across the top. We don't do that. Number one, we're not trained OSHA to do that, and I think that could get somebody, hurt. And number two, my dogs don't need to be up 50 feet into a ceiling.
Right.
We now do we find them up there? We do, but we climb up there. So we can get up with a thermal scope. We can go up and see if there's any damage done. So it's really technicians looking too. We can find the grease, we can find the chews, we can find the gnaws, just as well as, anyone else can. But we use our dogs for the hard to reach places. Does that
Love
answer
that.
that a little bit?
No, yeah, absolutely. I love that because like you said, a lot of times these spaces, even though they're built around humans and the proportions for everything, like you said, is you know is built in a way for us to walk around comfortably. There's so much to the infrastructure that leads to these little micro pockets, these little bitty pockets, and they go undisturbed. And so, and sometimes they're completely inaccessible, right? Especially to the tech, like unless you are a literal forklift that can pick up and move some of this stuff out of the way, and you can't just stop operations every time you're like, hey, I haven't seen that corner in a while. Let me just
Right.
grab somebody and just start moving all this stuff around. Like it's not going to happen, right? You're not going to be able to just do that. So I really love that methodology. I love the technique. So I think we were talking a little bit earlier too when you mentioned some of the kind of off the wall places that you've done some of your treatments at, both including for rodents and bed bugs. And you talked a little bit about like the oil and gas industry as well as maritime and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about your experience in some of the travel work that you've done, and what does that look like?
So with rodents, it's a lot of burrow work, a lot of high work, a lot of warehouses,
Warehouses, no
lots of
gross.
garbage dumps. My husband said to me, he said, I'm retired. And I said, yeah, I'm in Mississippi in a trash compactor. I went, you said you want to travel. He said, I'm into the beach. So yeah, we were not on the same wavelength for that. But then bed bugs, yeah, we go out on oil rigs for bed bugs. You know, bed bugs are like freaking everywhere, and bed bugs are they have the fear of God in people when really they create nothing but a ew bug. No diseases are spread by them. I mean, what is it? 6 point some million people die worldwide by mosquito bites, and then the damage that ticks can do to us, and nobody cares. But oh my God, have a bed bug, their world shuts down. So yeah, we do the oil rigs, we do the floating hotels, we do heliports, airports. So if anybody, it's a really good industry to be in. It really is. And if you can do the treatments, that's where the money is really at. If you're looking at financial value, it'd be in the treatments.
So what are some of the conducive conditions that you notice for those types of job sites that lead to there being a real demand for the deployment? I mean, you have a very specific service that you offer, right? And I'm sure it's not a very cheap service if you have to fly yourself, several of your animals, to be on part of this area, hop on a helicopter, fly out to the middle of the ocean, right? So what is causing them to have this demand?
So I would say lawsuits. I would say the average lawsuit, if I'm answering the question correctly, the average lawsuit I think is around 27,000 out of court. People panic over bed bugs. They panic over bed bugs. Everything is an emotional distress. They'll take work off. They'll get bed bug bites. I blow up like a gourder when I get bit by a bed bug. He feeds our bed bugs when he's watching television. He doesn't even have a mark on him when he's done. So we try to keep them as live as long as we can, and we like to keep human odor in them because it changes their composition when you feed them on a rabbit or another animal or a pinky. The dogs actually will slow down trying to find them. It's like, oh, I'm in this kind of smells like a bed bug, but the whole odor picture is not here. And you can see them stutter and why they're trying to, and they'll go, okay, this is it. So feeding them on human blood, they never stutter with their alerts. I think lawsuits and panic
Lawsuits and
is
panic.
is pretty much everybody's reason for pest control in the hospitality industry, apartment industry, warehouse industry. When you have these warehouses and they get rodent damage, it's so costly for them to send that stuff out. It's sent back. So they have to pay for that. They get fined. There's so much that goes on in that auditing industry when there's a rodent issue. And I think just with bed bugs, it's more of a panic situation.
So you mentioned that you feed these bed bugs. So you have your own colonies that you train them off of.
We do. We raise our own because I got tired of paying $2 a bug. And then you pay $2 a bug. You pay $1 for the vial. You pay for the shipping. You pay for the containers. You everything. I mean, it's like $200 to $300 every time I ordered bugs. So we just raise our own.
Are you familiar with Louis Sorkin?
I love Lewis. He actually gave me a lot of good information when I started. I've got a lot of his photographs in a slideshow that I do for senior living. We do. And that's one thing when anybody's doing this, I always think education should come with it. Like when we talk to our apartment complex people, we talk about, sanitation is rodent control. When we go to our senior living, we do a really nice education program on bed bug prevention, so they can try to keep them out of their environment. So yeah, so Lewis has been wonderful helping me out.
So I've had a couple of run-ins with Lewis. Lewis, if you're listening, please forgive me. We've had a couple of good interactions, but I stepped on my own foot, if you will, when we first met. Um, Brandon Runyon, BCE, came in and did a presentation for bed bugs, and it was a really high quality presentation that he, like CEU level quality. And I just wanted to get it out to the people. And there was a group on Facebook. I guess I didn't realize at the time, maybe he was like a moderator or something of that nature. And I put out a dastardly AI image of a bed bug. And if you know anything about Lewis, that just rustled his jimmies. He wasn't going to let that stand. And so, we end up, I said some unsavory comments. So, Lewis, if you're listening, please forgive me. I swear it wasn't like that. But, no, he's a really great guy, and the content that he makes and produces is awesome. And I know that he's like one of the foremost guys at raising bedbug colonies and stuff. So. When you mentioned it, my mind immediately shot to that. I was like, oh, there can't be a lot of people that raise bed bugs, So like, I know that you guys have to know each other in a small world like that.
Yeah. Well, most of us that do bed bugs, I mean, you can buy them, but it's just so expensive. But I'll tell you what, these wild caught bed bugs don't live as long as the captive bred bed bugs. It's either the stress or they've just had too much chemical dumped on them by the time you get them. And that's the other thing. When you're running a dog, you really have to know your environment and you have to understand the labels and you have to know what's chemicals in those labels because every label is different. And every dog, you can't run them. Some are 30 days before you can run your dog, some are only 15 days before you can run your dog. It's not going to kill your dog unless you get into any type of a powder with a pararethin, which can definitely kill your dog.
Right.
Um, but the sprays, even though they dry, they still leave residual. And you're thinking your dog's hunting and just having a great time, but he can't smell anything. It just totally has deadened his sense of smell. His olfactory's gone, and it could be that way for a week or 2 weeks, and now we're missing bugs. We look for bugs too. I'm not a person that's just gonna let my dog run through there. I'm watching every single change of behavior, every question that dog is asking himself. And then we don't put our dogs in harm's way. So most people are treating behind the, you go to senior living, they got the powder on the floor behind their beds and so behind their couches. So we search those areas and then we'll find bugs too. So it's always, and we verify every search, every alert, we'll verify it. And if we can't, we write why we can't do it. But I think when people talk about a canine job, it's a team. It's just
Right.
it's a canine supported activity. You're a team and you have to know your job as well, if not better, than the dog knows his. But you've also got to trust your dog.
So when you're like a lot of people deploy work animals, right? And they tend to keep a very strict relationship with their work animals. But I remember talking to you, and you were saying that that wasn't the case for you. That this is your family that you're very close with, and you get attached to several of the different animals, especially the ferrets. And so, what has that working relationship been like? Do you feel like that makes your pack better and stronger overall? Do you feel like that there's a reason why other people don't get as close to their animals, but you just choose not to anyways because it's
I think everybody working their animals, they get really emotional attached. But there's a lot of old school where they have to be in a crate and they only come out to work and people can't touch them and pet them. And I think you need to look at it by the individual dog. I have a golden retriever. If somebody pets that dog, that's all he wants the rest of the day. It's just someone to pet him. Just pet me, pet me, pet me. It's a golden retriever, right? Everybody loves me. I have terriers that you could pet them all day long and you're going to put them on the ground. They're going to go hunt. So I think you have to look at the individual dog. And my dogs are all like preacher's children. They're terrible. They are absolutely terrible at home. They run amok. We have 15 acres here. And right now, there's at least 7 dogs outside running around. We have a pool for everybody. We have a dock diving pool, so they get to swim, they get to run, they get to play, they get to be dogs when we're not working.
that is
We
awesome.
ask a lot from these animals when we're working, a lot. Long hours, use that nose longer than you want to. Our rat dogs are getting bit, and where the rats are just right on, holding right onto their face. They'll work through that. And our detection dogs just, yeah, we ask a lot.
Right.
I feel we need to give a lot.
That's
And yes,
awesome.
my ferrets, we have this awesome ferret program. And just like I bought this cute little dachshund to, go into burrows and chase groundhogs out and to do all this wonderful stuff. He hasn't worked yet because he's too cute and I don't want to put him on the ground. Just like Guppy, you really got to work. And my husband's like, we got him to work. And the ferrets are tiny. So ferrets are usually about 3 pounds. A 3 pound ferret is not fitting into a rat burrow. They'll fit into a rabbit burrow, and that's why what they rabbit with out in the UK. So I imported micro ferrets, and a normal ferret, 3 pounds. These guys aren't even a pound. Some of them are 198 grams. They're tiny.
Yep.
So a rat could kill them easily. So we're really careful with the pesticide. I just brought in a ferret from Lithuania. My God, that thing's a flying squirrel nightmare. The thing will jump and attack you. So yeah, I'm going to have some really nice micros next year, more aggressive, because that's what I need. I need that, I'm going to get in there, but I like the ferrets because I want to bond with people. They're like puppy dogs. I mean,
Right.
we walk our ferrets around here.
Yeah, I see
So
people that do that. Yeah.
yeah, I'll just be outside. We'll be working, and I got 3 or 4 ferrets running around, and you'll whistle, and they'll come running to you. And the one that doesn't, you're just hoping it comes back, and they all do. So yeah, we're just real careful with them when we go out. It's a new program. I'm learning, um, and it's. I wish I had one here to show you. They're like this big. They're just dinky.
What would you say is the most challenging part of the whole training process? Sorry, that's an alarm going off.
Um, I don't have any challenges with the training process. Sometimes it's hard to find what the dog wants to do. So Bailey, she's up on the LinkedIn site. She's an incredible rodent dog. She's so patient and she's a Jack Russell. She was a bed bug dog. She had no toy drive, no prey drive, and she was a bed bug dog for about 2 years of her life. And at age 2, she killed a squirrel, and that was it. All she wants to do now is hunt and kill. She could care less about bed bugs or searching. So sometimes it's career changing your dog.
Okay.
I think what's hard too is letting a dog go. We get a dog in that doesn't fit the program. we can't keep every single dog. So we have an adoption program, and it's hard for me personally to let some of these dogs go because I just get so attached to them. But they're here for a purpose, not warehousing. And some of them just need couches, and that's what we make sure they have. We stay financially responsible for that dog the rest of its life. It gets sick, we pay for it, we buy their food, everything when
Oh,
they go
wow.
into an adoption program. Yeah. I
Is,
want to always know they're okay.
oh, okay, I was gonna say, what's the sentiment behind that? Just a kind of a personal insurance
Well,
and
yeah,
well being.
yeah. Well, a lot of times people will get pets, and then when life gets in the way, their pet gets rid of, and then they start this vicious cycle of home after home after home. So we just want to make sure they either stay in the home or they come back with us. So we
Right.
board them for free. If they go on vacation, we take care of any medical, food, any issues like that. But the really, honestly, I think the hardest thing for all of us to deal with is people. I think we all have
I
that
can high
issue.
five you on that one. Yes.
I mean, we do. The client trying to explain to them their budget, their supervisor, their boss, the people watching, um, everybody wanting the fast fix. Like, I want these
Yeah,
bed bugs gone today. I want these cockroaches gone today. I want everything has to be fast food society gone now. And
right.
it's a process and it takes time. And then they'll get rid of you as a pest company and they'll hire somebody else and have to start at the beginning, and they go through that frustration over and over again. So I just think education needs to come to the forefront more in pest control instead of this is what we're going to do. And I think most technicians are super good at this, but this is what we need to do and this is why, and give them their options, but just keep supporting them emotionally on it, if that makes sense.
I 100% understand and agree with that. There's a culture shift that's been happening in our industry for a while. It's probably several decades in the making. The kind of movement from, you know, uh, baseboard jockeys just kind of going around treating everything everywhere and products that
Yeah.
needed treatment in all the spaces. They didn't have any residual. They volatilized off. They were odorous. The days of everybody clearing out all their cabinets and stuff, and how things have changed over time. I don't know if you follow Andrew Sinavsky on LinkedIn or any of the content that he creates. He was actually recently talking about um, pay in the industry, as well as how to how it's linked with pricing and ticket pricing, and that the general stance in the industry is to kind of get angry at regulation, or regulation is the enemy, or kind of tear down at the regulations that are taking tools out of the tool bag. And fair enough, there's a reason for that. People are frustrated. It can be already hard enough to deal with the job as it is at times. But he was making the point and kind of making the argument that actually it's regulations in the various different trade industries that brings the value to them, right? It's why
Oh, exactly.
your electricians are regulated, your plumbers are regulated, your HVAC is regulated, and the 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 higher the bar that there is of accountability and regulation, the more that the industry is a little bit more respected. And I
Mhm.
think our industry for a while has been trying to claw its way out of just the general labor kind of perception, and really, carving out that we are a licensed trade,
Yep.
of educated bunch of workforce, just like every other high value trade. And so um, I love what you're saying, because I 100% think educating the general public is how we get there. Right now we're in a time where people do care about the environment, they do care about conservation, and that doesn't mean everyone's squeamish, that doesn't mean that everyone's politically slanted one way or the other. It's just having a general respect for life and the complications that come with it, and then having a reverence for the things that need to be done to solve those issues. Right, whether
Right.
that be the application of lethal products, whether that be traps that might be unsavory, the whole glue board snap trap debate, whatever the public can stomach is it has to be shaped in a way that is backed by good science. It's backed by good technicians in the industry who are trying to communicate that, if clearly. Otherwise, if you just always if every time you're always just capitulating what the customer wants, and you're not actually kind of holding your ground a little bit and being like, well, actually, we can't really do it that way, or it needs to be handled in a different way. That's like you were saying earlier. Someone who's just kind of panics and it's like, well, they're just going to throw tracking powder everywhere. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like in a panic or not, you cannot do that. And
That's,
you need to hold
yeah.
ground on that.
And regulations protect us too.
Right,
Regulations protect us. I think inspections protect us. It's not designed to harm us, although I think we get that into our head because it's going to prevent us from doing something. But
right,
I think it makes it better. I think it makes us look out of the box, and it makes us look at seeing how to do things a little differently. I mean, I think those black little boxes are the perfect little rodent boxes are the perfect example. We're just used to straight lining them, put them up against the wall, put them so far apart and so many per building. We see rats running their roadways. They're not running anywhere those boxes are. They
right.
use like they'll run the dark line, they'll run the shadows, they'll run to the quiet, they'll run under the tree, then they'll run. It's amazing what we can find, and we don't see a lot of lines where those boxes are. We see rats running to them to hide. They're so when rats dig burrows, you'll have your burrow and you'll have your I call them escape hideys. So they may have just dug a hole 2 feet. It's just literally an escape tunnel. Get away from the hawk, get away from the cat, get away from the dog, get away from the person. And so that's they just kind of use those little black boxes as their little escape tunnels in a lot of our infestations.
So that's a really good point because, like you said, the regulations can definitely protect us, but adherence to them for the sake of because of the way they're written to the letter, right? It's like you said, it's like certain
Right.
number of boxes, a certain number of feet, and sure, it's great on paper, but it completely misses the objective, right? It
Well,
just
but it does. But how many technicians actually stay out there and watch? The first time when we get to a job, we like to actually observe your site because every site, every colony, every population has a different personality. They have different issues on their site. They have different timing, different people, different runways. If you can find the personality of that rodent infestation, you will know where to put your boxes. And our first night out there, we start at 10 in the morning and we get lawn chairs and we sit and we watch and we split up and we're filming and we've got cameras in all different places and we can
wow.
see where their runways are. We can see where they're heading, where they're going. Oh my God, this last one, we couldn't figure out how's it getting in the dumpster. And when we finally put the camera up and we sat there and watched it, they were disappearing in a tiny little hole right at the mechanics, right where you turn the dumpster on. And they literally had dug all the way up through the concrete and they were going behind it and through the fence. No one saw them. Hundreds of rats were moving this way and you wouldn't even see them. So once you do your observation as a technician, you will know where to put those boxes and you'll be so much more successful than just every so many feet all the way around the circle.
So, kind of keeping on the idea of the regulations, you get a chance to travel quite a bit, and you've seen, pest control performed on a lot of different parts of this planet, and all of those places kind of interact with pest control in a different way. And we were talking about the trucks and the 18 wheelers in these very large food handling distribution. There's a cultural difference, and maybe that's regulatory based, or maybe that's just cultural based, but there's a difference in the sanitation level between what's the logistics systems, the trucking systems that are in the UK or in Europe versus what we have here in the United States.
Right.
Do you think is that all cultural based? Do they have a mandatory requirement to do that? I know you know people just wouldn't think that trucks and that they're a huge vector for these issues, but they absolutely are. And there's not a large emphasis on sanitation because they're wrapped in boxes and packaging and elevated up
Yeah.
on pallets and stuff. So where is that coming from? And tell me a little bit about how that impacted you when you saw that.
So it's a great question, and we're still trying to find out if there's an actual national, federal, regulation on how clean these trucks should be. So right now I'm thinking it's company by company. So it's just whatever the flavor, whatever the culture of that company is. Some of these trucks are kind of clean, but we're running we were talking about, an air sampling system. In France, the freaking trucks are so clean, you could fry an egg in most of them. So they're not having an issue. But when we started air sampling the back of these tractor trailers so we could run a can sample for the dogs. They're just hitting left and right. And I know there's no live rodent in this naked truck. So when we got in there to really look, they are so filthy. I mean, there's old fecal. You could blue light it, but I mean, everything under the sun's going to show up. There's stains from produce and product and old mice fecal and rat fecal. We found a dead rat. So they're obviously, it was a very dehydrated dead rat. So they're not cleaning the back of those trucks. So that sanitation is a huge issue for me. And then they're contaminating what product they're bringing in and maybe giving false reads, because, when that product gets put into that pickup or back of that tractor trailer, it's going somewhere else. They will audit it at the end. And if they find rats, fecal, urine, or anything, they can possibly send that tractor trailer back. So we're
Right.
kind of in the very infant stages of trying to find out, is this a regulation? How serious do they have to clean the back of these trucks? A friend of mine, K&M out of Colorado, he's like, they have to clean theirs out between each load. They're back there sweeping it out. And so, yeah, so when I started walking management through these tractor trailers, they're like, oh my God.
Right.
So right now we're having to revamp how we train the dogs, but that's just also thinking out of the box a little bit and getting the dogs trained appropriately so we can sample the back of these trucks. Because Marcus, like you were saying, that really is probably 70% of the issue of bringing these hitchhikers in. They bring them in, they unload right there at the dock, right in the warehouse, and mice don't bounce as easily as rats do. They kind of hang a little tighter, but they're still packing them up and putting them out there in the warehouse. Where eventually they're going to come out and say, "Oh, what can I do?" And
Right.
now you have a problem because you've got your transient population, and now you have your resident population. And your resident population has lots of time to get in there and find where to hide, where to produce, and it's never going to be in the main. We never find the resident population out on the main floor where they're going, oh, all the activities over here. I want to go where it's super quiet, super dark. The lights aren't popping off and on all the time. And that's where I'm going to look first. And that's usually where we'll find most of the activity for a resident population. And that's just, you know, most of the time, not all. Nothing is ever all the time in
Yeah.
pest
Yeah.
control.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
So tell me a little bit about the difference between a transient population and a resident population. What are some of the telltale signs that a technician on site could see that would lend him to know what he's looking at?
so our experience, and it's just our very small experience. Your resident population has a true route. They know, they have routes. They know where to go. They know where to be. They know what to do. They know where to run. So if there's an emergency, they know where to run from A to B. And when these new ones come in, they're very haphazard. We're not seeing any routes. We're just seeing they're fleeing here and there. But you'll start seeing a route. You'll start the last place we're in. Every time this one area got moved, they always went from aisle N to aisle J, aisle N all the way over to aisle J, nonstop. They knew where to go. And once we started mapping that out, we came up with harbor areas. We came up with several nests. We came up with young, because the young aren't going to go more than 50 feet away from that nest. These little under 3 month old mice. So then you start trapping inward. We don't do the trapping. All we're doing is doing the geo mapping and saying, here's where we think you should go. But you need to look up as well as you need to look down. We had sticky traps on the ledge 20 feet up, and we were catching. We were catching on that ledge because the dogs found them in the maintenance room, and they found them behind an electrical box in a hole the size of a quarter, and only half of that hole showing. No human being was ever going to see that. We had to really dig through all these wires that were underneath it to even see it. And Bailey found it, and she went nuts. They put snap traps out, and within 6 hours, we caught 9 mice. And then we got to, it's like, oh, there's a roof here. So we got up on top of that and you could see the holes that they had chewed through the caulking in between the blocks. So they were just using that wall as their runway. And then they were getting on the ledge and running it all the way down, hopping over to the wooden pallets and having a feast. Never seen. So I think your resident population to me are just a little more secretive, a
A
little more
little
tucked
savvy.
in,
Yeah.
very savvy, and they know right where to go.
Right. Right. They've explored all the good spots. You know.
They do. And here's the fascinating thing for the resident population when they start trapping, and the last three places we've been, I find it fascinating. We were catching more females than males. We were catching nursing females or pregnant females. So I don't know what that says, except I just found it fascinating. In the last two burrow work that we did, the first job, we're actually going back this weekend, 86% were all males. All males. And then so what that told us was that population, it was at maximum capacity. And so
Right.
now, if your technicians don't spend some time in the field really paying attention to this, okay, so now where are the females? So now we've got to go find a whole nother population that's not using these burrows. So these males, adult males, it was 86% adult males, a few sub-adults, but it was impressive. So now we've spent a day trying to find the female population, and there was a railroad tie wall. And so that's where they were. We had a large female population back there. And then we got, oh, it's so gross to land those dumpsters. And after we got on the ground and cleaned it out enough to get on the ground with a thermal scope, under that dumpster was crawling with young, sub-adults, young. You can just look, I mean, we're just looking at size through a thermal scope. And when we started catching, a ton of females. And so when we went back a month later, it was interesting to me because now we're catching burrows, we're doing burrow work, and we're catching only females out of the same burrows that those, males took care of. And most everybody will know, rats mate for life.
Oh, I didn't
So,
know that. No.
yeah, they'll mate for life. And so, we took out all those all the breeding males. But
Right.
and the females will run because those males will cannibalize on those babies. And they're going to go to a nice, soft place, a dark place, a quiet place. And what's quieter and safer than under the dumpster? Because now they just go right straight up to the food source. They're
Right.
never, I mean, they are never seen. And we've been to places where that's where the population's at, is under that dumpster. And we use all types of things to flush them out. We'll use smoke candles. We'll use water. We'll use water with Dawn dish liquid soap in it to take the air pockets out, because they can hold their breath like 4 minutes. Because we've got to get them above ground. And
Right.
we'll use the Burrow RX. It's an EPA approved machine, and we can use that.
What does that
Um,
do? Is that
so
like?
The Burrow RX was created by a baseball player out in Colorado or California to take care of gopher pocket gophers or
Okay.
prairie dogs, whatever they have out there. And it kills underground. It's carbon dioxide.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're smoking underground, and so you're killing underground, and the dogs are killing above.
Right.
So
Right.
when we use that, we can't be around any foundations, any homes, anything. It's just around the dumpster, and it's off gases, it's fumes. They smell it, they run. You can mix oil with it, so we'll take some oil and we'll put in there, and it'll really off gas and smoke. It'll just so now when we're smoking, we can see the path of the burrows. I
Right. Yeah.
can
You can
say
see the other exit points.
that's right. And then we'll close those up. And we don't give them a lot of opportunity of where to run to and from. And then we're using nets. I hate losing rats, so we'll lose nets and we'll barricade it and give the dogs a better chance of catching. So there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, we catch a lot of rats, but we're doing a lot to it.
I was gonna say, sounds very intensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a whole day to set up sometimes. And then you have to keep it going and keep it moving. Where every day those burrows are getting treated and every day they flood rats out. So
Is there any real difference between mice and rats when it comes to, uh, where your mind goes as far as like solving the issue or any behavioral differences? You kind of pick up trends
not
between the two.
Well, I don't like my dog. We don't run dogs on mice for abatement because I don't want them eating them. And a mouse is like a tiny little candy bar. It's
Snack.
so small. Yeah, it's a snack. They're going to kill it and swallow it right down. And that's going to cause maybe some pesticide issue, a blockage. So most of your mice issues are all in these warehouses. They're not so much burrowers. They're in a home. So it's easy just to go around, pinpoint them in the house, trap them out.
Right.
Exclusion is your best line of defense. That's your first line of defense with anything. Exclude them, keep them in. Now they're hungry, and now you can catch them easily in your traps. So with dogs, I think my biggest frustration with mice is people don't take them seriously. Oh, it's a mouse. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, a mouse. What do they have? Like 30,000 micro droplets of urine. I forget what the real number is. It's a lot of micro droplets of urine and one mouse, and that is very dangerous. That's a health issue. There was a school, I think, I just went to that rodent academy, and Bobby Kerrigan was telling us about a school that had 4 or 5 rodent, drops of urine on a desk and a fecal. They closed the whole school down because they realized how dangerous it was. There's allergens, the antivirus, all the stuff that
yeah.
these mice carry. I think that's my frustration is people don't take mice seriously. They take rats seriously. And I think mice are just as dangerous for your health. Um, as far as catching them, I think they're a little more frustrating because they'll get in a freaking bag of rice and stay there forever because they can get the fluid they need, they can get the nutrition they need right out of that bag. They don't ever have to leave. So they get out of control, I think, a lot quicker than rats, at
Is
least
that
in
just because
what
of their size, or like, or what? How come they just need less water because of their size, or is there?
it's sort of their size. They just
Yeah,
need less water. Yeah, they're
yeah,
just tiny. And everything's got fluid in it. I mean, the cardboard in these warehouses holds humidity. So
right.
it has fluids in it and they can get the fluid out of that cardboard they're chewing on. They don't have to have a water source. A rat's got to drink nonstop. They've got to have that fresh water source that they can get to all the time.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
one. I love the little tidbits of knowledge. I love, I mean, it kind of just shows how much of, you're an expert. You're an expert at what you do.
Oh,
And
I don't
I
know.
know people like Mr. Blatella doesn't like to use some of the word expert in this industry, and
I
that's
have a
fine. I
lot of
get it.
worthless knowledge in my head. So
No, no, no.
valuable it is.
Hey, for the everyday technician that's out there, and the few who might be listening to this podcast, I'm telling you, it's the little small crumbs of knowledge that you just don't get from a 1 hour CEU that you might do at your office, right? That's where the value is. It comes from decades of learning, decades of observation, decades of being out on job sites. That's why I love interviewing people who, not only do something cool and unique like what you do, but also people who who've seen things, that it's the textbook is great, and we definitely love our entomologists and the various different academics that we have because they're so accurate and they're just so good at what they do. But I love the other side of that coin as well, of the real world, lived experience, and just noticing, maybe there's not a rule for it, but but just having a kind of gut feeling that, these animals go for this and these animals go for that. That's where the kernel of truth is at, because the book's just not going to cover all the scenarios. And when you're
It
out
doesn't.
there at all these different facilities, like you were saying, like a food handling facility, or like a drink manufacturing facility, right? They might be doing, a lot of sodas and various different drinks like that, but then they also might have canned or bottled water, right? And forklifts are, inaccurate and oftentimes clipping other packages and tearing things up. And, that's so important to know that, like you said, like your rats need a water source, like an actual liquid, readily available water source. So that's going to tell you, hey, if you're dealing with rats and not mice, and you're in one of these kinds of facilities that looks or appears clean, or appears, on that outer level inspection, that everything's nice and tidy, that there's something hiding somewhere. There's a busted pipe. There's a busted case of water. There is something somewhere nearby that's providing for that animal. And so, but if you're dealing with mice, right, like you might be trying to find where this water source is at, and it turns out the whole time it's just the humidity in
And
the
they really
air.
don't need it. They can get it. Well, I just think that the companies, if you own a company or if you work for a company as a technician, you really need to spend time observing. You have to. If you don't know what you're hunting, you can't clear it out. The dogs will always kill something, and you may kill 83 and think you've done great, but I mean, we had a job, we took out 3,000 rats. That's what we had in our buckets.
Yeah, I'm
3,000.
not. As I say, we're looking at it right here live, folks. Look at
So
that.
that
Look at all
a,
those
a
rats.
A Home Depot bucket holds adult rats, about 180 adult rats in an adult Depot bucket. And then of course you get all your babies in there and all your subadults and stuff. So this particular day was an absolute ball, and oh my God, it was a disaster for us people, not the dogs. And I think that was 364 rats in those buckets.
Wow.
It
Holy
might have been
cow.
366, but it was 364-ish. And it was a fast-paced day. And what this was, there was a rock wall and that's in front of it, and it's surrounding the compactor. And we couldn't figure out why the rats weren't coming out of the burrows because we're smoking. We're using non-toxic smoke sticks, candlesticks, and we're taking a leaf blower and we're blowing the smoke in. Nothing. So I'm like, they got to be in the wall. So we found a spot in that wall and we started smoking and rats started running. Those rats in this particular job, we sat and watched all night. They were going under the road, under the road, under the road. And we told the apartment complex that road was going to collapse. 2 months later, that whole road collapsed. The borough system was so detailed under that road, it collapsed. So
Holy
rats,
cow.
they just do an amazing amount of damage. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars of damage. So that's why observation is so important. Know what you're hunting, know the personality of the colony you're hunting, and know what to do with it. The dogs are just going to do what they do, but you've got to have the information.
I
You've
love
got to know
that.
how
Know the
you can,
personality of what you're hunting.
yeah, you've got to
Yes.
know the personality of that colony, and you've got to know where are they going, where are the young, where's the two. There's two distinct. When you get a oversaturated population, we were talking about, the females are running. So now where are they? So you've got to find that population because you're going to look like a hero for about a month, and then that population's rebounding really quick. And just because you didn't find the breeders, you didn't find all the young.
Right.
Um, so that was an epiphany to me. So we started, now we keep track of percentage of males, percentage of subadults, pregnant females, because that's giving us information of what we need to do. How far out do we need to go? And then we find the burrows. They're all marked. We flag for an entire day. We're just flagging burrows. That's all we're doing. Pulling back the leaves, pulling back the brush, flagging burrows.
Is
Then we'll
there
start.
any difference in foraging behavior between the males and females? Like, do the males tend to go out further in a resident population versus the females, or
I,
do you
you
find it
know,
kind of equal both?
I don't know that. I would know how to answer that question. I can tell you what we do see is the females travel further when the population gets oversaturated. They'll move out of the way of the boys because, like I say, the males will eat their young, and
Right.
they're fight more, and so they'll move out more. So we have seen that. The
Okay.
furthest burrow that we have had where we smoked the burrows, it was 80 feet out. That to me was and it was way out by itself in the middle of a yard. So I don't know if they just started that system or was that the beginning of a system, but that's the furthest burrow that we've measured. Most of them are, 3 feet from each other, and supposedly a rat family will take 3 burrows. So you'll have, they'll have the nest site. So when you see the baby come up, we mark it white if we flush a baby or a young subadult, because now that's probably going to be our nesting site right there. And then you'll have their
Hmm.
tunnel, their little escape hatch. So that's rule of thumb is 3 burrows per
Rule is
family.
three.
And you're supposed to be able to tell in a burrow system. Well, I think it's you take those 3 burrows, multiply it by or divide it by 8. There's a whole, I forget it, but it's a whole formula that you can piece together to say this is the population of these burrows. But we're not finding that to hold suit because we have a whole nother population running. And that's our facility, that little picture up there. That's our kennel for our dogs. Now, the dogs, you can hear one barking. So the goose dogs I have 2 border collie, neurotic border collies that chase geese. and they're up here in the house with me. So the dogs come into the house, and they're family. They're in the kennel. They come to the house. Um, so that's a little bit of us.
That's so cool. I didn't mean to side rail you from what you were saying
No,
about the. I
I
just
freaking
was
love it.
wanted. You sent me these wonderful pictures, and I just kind of wanted to have them, in the
Yeah,
background. So
yeah.
this is a very clean facility. This is very nice. It's very well built out. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, no, this is the wrong version. Um, I mean, look at that. That is gorgeous.
So that's our feeding, our prep area, and then the door to the right's our bathtub, and the kennels are over to the left. And then you walk in from this building, you walk into another big, nice kitchen, and that's our staff's kitchen. And then my dog training room is now my ferret room, because when I got the ferrets, I didn't realize they can't handle the heat. So now they're in the dog training room and air conditioning. So I kind of lost that little room.
So Jorge asked, how big was your team? How many employees do you have, and how do you delegate out the work? Via the different teams. How do you know where to split them up to and send them?
So I basically we have 5 people that work with us, and then we have subcontractors all over the place that work. So if I end up with a job in Ohio, I can call Kelly and say, hey, do you want to work this job for me? Because she has certified bed bug dogs. So we kind of handled that like that. Um, and delegation is just basically who likes to do what. And, who wants to go kill some rats? Who wants to go catch rats? Well, the guy in that picture a minute ago, the black gentleman, Sean, who we love dearly, he hates rats. So I make him go on all the jobs. He has yet to pick up a rat. We opened up this closet at this farm. Oh my God, there were so many roofies in it, roof rats. He started kicking, thinking he was kicking a rat. He was kicking my shin. And I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me. He was like, I was like, guys, you're worse than my cousin. So yes, on until he picks up a rat. It's going on every rat job. So we tease him all the time. We get along, everybody gets along really well here. We have turnover just like everybody else. It's a specialty field. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of burnout because of the travel. I mean, Sean, he flew to Chicago for an airplane issue, then flew down to Texas to help with another issue, and it just gets tiring. But we love it. So
How do you go about finding these handlers?
I usually wait till somebody approaches me, to be perfectly honest, because I have put ads and stuff out there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Nah. There's.
no, it doesn't work for me. And what I get is the kill of death with me is when someone says, I just love animals. I just love animals. I'm like, okay,
This
now
isn't gonna work for you. Yeah.
we're not going to be able to work through the rat issue. And these dogs are different. They're not pet dogs, and they don't want to be. A lot of my dogs, they love to sit on the couch with you. But you go out there and you throw a toy for 5 of them, they're going to fight,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
I drive prey dogs are just crazy. I mean, we work with field cocker spaniels who I love. If you ever want to know what it's like to be on crack, just be around a field cocker for like an hour and a half and you'll know exactly what it's like. So I love them. They don't stop working. So we do field cockers, Springer Spaniels. I have a golden retriever for our detection dogs, whether it's rodents or bed bugs. And then border collies for goose patrol. And then the dogs from hell terriers. I've got 3 Patterdales, a Jag Terrier, a Jack Russell, and a really nice Hyde Terrier, which I've never used before. So he's imported. A Hyde Terrier is a cross between a Patterdale and an Airedale, and beautiful temperament. Never barks or anything, doesn't get upset with anybody, works and plays well with everyone. So I think it's important to know who you are, to know what kind of a personality of a dog you would want to work with. But I think people need to realize that you're not going to be successful if you depend on that dog. You have the thumbs, you have to do the work, the dog gets to play. And you've got to become a really strong teammate with that dog. Just like falconry, everybody wants to go out and, oh, I want to go out and catch a bunny with you, but they don't realize they're beating that brush and eating briars all day long and coming back bloody and scratchy. And when you don't push prey for your falcon or your hawk, they hit you in the back of the head because they're mad at you, and we've all had that happen. So they're used to you producing, so you need to produce. So it's a real partnership.
Well, you've recently kind of gotten your debut on the social medias and stuff like that. If it's important that the handlers have to be the ones to find you, then obviously these customers need to know about the service you have. The various different pest control guys, the various different owner operators, they need to know about you and what you're doing, so that way they can get a hold of you and get your service. So where can you be found? How can people get a hold of you? And give me a little shameless plug here for you.
Well, it's called Urban Canine Pest and Wildlife Solutions, or UCPAWS.com is kind of the acronym for it. We've got a great little website up. Just go to the website, call us. You can call me on my cell, 404-234-0688. You can reach out through LinkedIn, text me, send up red flags, anything. We're happy to work with anybody. We're happy to teach anybody anything. But I expect you to teach me something back, because I am so honored to be a part of this pest control family. You have no idea. And we're only going to be good, and we're only going to get better by surrounding ourselves with beautiful people and strong mentors in the field. And that's what we have. You only succeed with however strong the people you have around you.
Well, we are so thankful that you're a part of LTK now,
Oh, I just
because
love this.
yeah, I was gonna say you're surrounded by great people now. We've just added another great one amongst us, so you've been recruited, as it says when you join.
And when I look at these technicians that don't want to get dirty, and I'm laying in a freaking dumpster at age 63 years old and holding rats, I expect more out of a youngin'.
That's right. That's right.
Hey,
Get to work, goddammit. That's what I'm like.
get out there. I've had people walk away and go, no, not happening.
Oh,
I
I
had
love it.
one guy work with us for a while. We knew he wouldn't last, because every time he'd go, I need some help. I need some help. And he'd be stepping on the tail of a rat, and we'd be running 100 yards up a hill. And I'm done. I can't run up that hill anymore to take a rat from him. But yeah, reach out, text me, email me. You can reach us through our website. Love to talk to anybody. Love to hear your stories. Love to learn from every single technician out there.
Well, we are definitely chock full of stories, and we're going to have you back around for another podcast so we can dive in. Looks like Jeff is interested in some of the worst and best situations, so maybe we'll save that story for the next one.
I see what he's saying. I'm like, hey, the worse it is for me, the more I like it, because here's what I do, guys. I hand everybody a Home Depot bucket, and I say, we're not leaving until your bucket is full. And so it's like, then we guess like jelly beans, and I buy the beer. So, you've got to fill that bucket, whether you're catching or you're
You
not.
don't get to go home. You don't get to get back on the plane until you got a
So
full
yeah,
bucket.
fill that bucket. I've never said no to a job. Um, uh, and I've walked away thinking we could always do better. But I think if you don't self-critique and analyze, you'll never improve. So I'm
Sure.
not ashamed of that. And I will actually go back to a client site and say, let me give you 2 days. Let me figure this out, come back and give you 2 more days. And I don't charge them. And then we'll succeed. So, but yeah, I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us on License to Kill tonight. A special thank you and shout out to our sponsors. We have Swarm, we've got Pest Patrol, we've got Nisus, we've got SteriFab. These are guys that believe in the mission, bringing people together and making a change in the industry. Thank you so much for taking your time with us, Ms. Kim. I greatly appreciate you for all your experience and everything that you bring to the table. Thank you for being a part of our group, and we look so forward to chatting with you on a regular basis. You make sure that you have a blessed night tonight, okay?
Thanks, everybody. And I'll leave you with this note: Rupee rats suck. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the License to Kill podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful, informative, and engaging. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. It really helps us to reach more listeners like you. Have a question or a topic that you'd like us to cover in a future episode? Connect with us through our Facebook, YouTube, and most importantly, our Discord. Until next time, this is your host, Marcus, reminding you to stay sharp, stay legendary, stay connected.